Author's POV, the marketing floor of Hype Tower, was never quiet. But today, it felt especially loud, keyboards clacking, phones ringing, laughter spilling over cubicle walls. In the middle of it, Y/NS Patience was hanging by a very thin thread on her screen. The project brief for the company's biggest campaign of the year. At the top of the email, 2 names in bold lead strategists: Jeon Jungkook, Senior Creative Director Y/NL/N, Senior Copywriter. Everyone else had congratulated her. She wanted to scream across the room. Behind a glass-walled office, Jungkook stood with his hands in his pockets, black shirt tucked into tailored pants, sleeves rolled to his forearms, tattoos peeking out just enough to make his whole presence look like trouble. His face was calm, cold, unreadable. It had been that way since the day she joined the company she'd beaten his proposed pitch in her first month. The client had picked her idea. He hadn't forgiven her since. "Have you seen this?" Myra whispered, sliding into the chair beside her. "You and Jeon Jungkook on the same project. This is like putting gasoline and a lit match in a small box, more like putting me in a box with a very well-dressed wall." Y/N muttered. "He doesn't talk. He glares." Mira snorted. "He talks. Just not to people he considers competition." Y/N rolled her eyes. "Lucky me." As if summoned by the conversation, Jungkook stepped out of his office. Conversations faltered around the floor. People pretended to be very busy. He walked with that infuriatingly calm confidence. Heading straight for her desk, he stopped in front of her, hands slipping into his pockets. "Conference room, 5 minutes," he said. "No hello." "No please." She tilted her head. "Is that how you ask for a meeting?" His jaw ticked once. Y/N don't test my patience. We have a deadline." She smiled sweetly. "You have a deadline. I have options around them." A few coworkers pretended not to listen, shoulders shaking. His eyes darkened just a shade. "Conference room," he repeated, voice low. "Now." He walked away without checking if she followed, and she hated that she did a /N POV shift, first clash behind closed doors. Y/N POV. The small glass-walled conference room felt too bright when I stepped inside. He was already there, sleeves pushed up, laptop open, posture relaxed that way that still somehow felt like a challenge. I shut the door. "So," I said, dropping my notebook on the table, "do we start with you ignoring my ideas, or me pretending not to notice?" Jungkook didn't even look up from his screen. "You think I ignore your ideas? I think you hate that clients like them." That got his attention. His gaze lifted, pinning me in place. Up close, his eyes were worse, dark, steady, intense enough to make my stomach flip. "I don't hate your ideas," he said slowly. "I hate your attitude." "My attitude?" I laughed. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize having a backbone was against company policy." He shut his laptop with a soft click. "Sit," he said. I stayed standing. "I'm not your intern. Didn't say you were." His tone stayed maddeningly calm. "But if we're going to share a project without killing each other, someone has to be the adult in the room." "Ouch." "Sit down." Y/N. Something in his voice, quiet, commanding, slid down my spine like heat. I sat annoyed at him, annoyed at myself. He opened a folder, sliding a few mock-ups across the table. The client wants an emotional angle. Nostalgia, growth, family. We handle visuals and copy together, so the message is cohesive. I skimmed them. They were good, of course they were. He was annoyingly talented. You did these? I asked before I could stop myself. He nodded once. Strong, I admitted, his brows lifted slightly. A compliment from you. I should frame this moment. I rolled my eyes. Don't get used to it. He watched me for a second too long. Look, I said, forcing myself back on track. I know you'd rather do this alone, but the board trusts the team up. So how about we just coexist professionally? His mouth twisted, like he wanted to say something sharper. Instead, he took a breath. Fine, Jungkook said. Professional, great. Which means, he added, no more passive-aggressive comments in front of the team. You have a problem with me, you bring it here. To me, my pulse jumped for some stupid reason. To you, I repeated. Alone exactly. Alone in a room with him. My brain decided that was the moment to notice the way the vein in his forearm moved when he flipped a page, the way his throat shifted when he swallowed. I looked away. Deal, I muttered, as long as you stop pretending. I don't exist in meetings. He leaned back in his chair. I notice you, he said softly. My heart did something stupid and painful. He went on before I could react. That's the problem. I blinked. What's that supposed to mean? His gaze shuddered. Nothing. Let's schedule late work tonight. We need to build a rough storyboard by tomorrow. Tonight, I frowned. We can't finish that in one evening. We'll work late, he said. The storm will keep people home. Building will be quieter. Storm. I glanced toward the windows. Dark clouds were already rolling over the city. Well, I said with a sigh, at least I'll have something fun to blame when I inevitably get a migraine. He smirked faintly. Dramatic, Jungkook murmured. Says the man scheduling a creative marathon during a thunderstorm. His eyes flickered with something unreadable. Thunder doesn't scare me, he said. Lucky you, I muttered. Some of us lived in buildings where storms meant power cuts and buckets under the ceiling. He stared at me for a beat too long again. Then we'll keep the lights on, he said quietly. All of them. I didn't know why that made my chest ache, just like I didn't know why when I left the room. I could feel his gaze on my back the whole way out to /N, a late-night work session, a raging storm, and a building that doesn't want to cooperate. Authors, POV by 9 p.m. The office was almost empty. Only a few scattered lights glowed across the floor, computers humming quietly. Outside, rain smashed against the windows, wind howling around the tower. In the main meeting room, Y/N sat cross-legged on a chair, surrounded by sticky notes, storyboards, and an impressive number of empty coffee cups. Jungkook stood at the whiteboard, sleeves rolled even higher, marker in hand. They'd fallen into a rhythm. What if? Y/N said, tapping her pen against her lips. We show the kid growing up through objects instead of faces. The same toy, the same table, the same doorway, just changing over time. He turned, considering. His eyes warmed, almost imperceptibly. That works, he said. It's good. A tiny spark of satisfaction flared in her chest. Careful, she said lightly. You almost sounded impressed. I am impressed, Jungkook replied. She blinked that. was new. I hired you for a reason, he added. Going back to the board, my brain stuttered. You hired me? He paused, marker hovering above the board. The final decision was mine, he said. HR shortlisted. I chose. I remembered that interview, how his questions had been sharp, precise, how he'd watched her like he was evaluating more than her answers. And here I thought you regretted it every day, I muttered, his shoulders tensed. I don't regret it, he said quietly. He trailed off. The lights flickered. We both looked up. Please don't, I whispered to the ceiling. Not today. Thunder cracked so loudly the windows trembled. The lights went out, total darkness. Swallowed the room Y/NS breath hitched. She hated that old instinctive fear, memories of being a kid in a tiny apartment. Storms knocking out power. Her mother lighting one candle. And saying it would be okay in a voice that sounded more hopeful than certain. Her pulse spiked. Don't move, she whispered, more to herself than anyone. Footsteps, then a familiar voice, closer than before. Y/N. Something warm brushed her hand. She flinched. It's me, Jungkook said softly. Relax, I'm right here. His fingers wrapped around hers in the dark, steady, solid. Her mind screamed at her to pull away. Her body didn't listen outside. Thunder rolled again. Inside. Her heartbeat synced with his grip. The backup generator will kick in, he said. Give it a second. The emergency lights hummed back to life, bathing the room in a faint orange glow. And realized two things at once. One, she was breathing too fast too. Their hands were still linked. Jungkook looked down at them, then up at her. The air went thick slowly. Too slowly. She tugged her hand back. Thanks, she muttered. Old habits. Storms and I don't get along. He watched her carefully. Did I scare you? No, she said. That's kind of the problem. Something flickered in his eyes. He opened his mouth. The power cut again. This time, the emergency lights didn't come back on okay. That's less cute. Y/N hissed a beat of silence. Then the building's security system chimed over the speakers. Attention, a calm recorded voice said. Due to ongoing power issues, all elevators are temporarily offline. Please remain on your current floor. Maintenance is working to resolve the issue. Y/N groaned. Trapped at work with my favorite person, she said dryly. What a blessing. She heard him chuckle under his breath. That's one word for it. The storm howled louder somewhere. A door slammed in the wind. The sound made her jump. She moved too quickly, foot catching on a stray cable. The floor tilted. She braced for impact. But arms caught her strong, firm. Warm, she collided with a solid chest instead of the ground. Breath knocked out of her. Hands gripped her waist, fingers digging in just enough to steady, not enough to bruise. For a second, everything else disappeared, just her, pressed against Jungkook, his heartbeat thudding under her cheek, his breath ghosting the top of her head. His voice came out low and rough. Careful. Her fingers had twisted into his shirt. She realized it at the same moment he did. He tensed. He murmured, "Don't touch me." The words cut sharper than the storm. She froze, then pulled back like she'd been burned. Right, she said, forcing a laugh that tasted bitter. Wouldn't want to upset the king of personal space. He flinched. She didn't give him time to respond. Can we just finish this? She snapped. The sooner we're done, the The sooner I can forget this night ever happened. She grabbed her notebook and sank into a chair. Not looking at him, Jungkook stood there for a moment longer. Fingers flexing at his sides, he'd said it without thinking. Not because he didn't want her touch, but because he wanted it too much. /N, tempers flare, secrets slip, and the storm outside is nothing compared to the one between them. Author's POV. Half an hour later, the storm showed no sign of calming. Wind screamed against the windows. Rain flung itself sideways. The building hummed on low power. Emergency lights casting strange shadows along the hallway. The meeting room had grown stuffy. Papers were scattered, pens everywhere. The storyboard was almost complete. Boxes filled with ideas that had poured out of them in sharp bursts between awkward silences. Jungkook stood at the whiteboard, marker tapping against his thigh slash, and sat with her arms crossed, staring at the table every few minutes. Their eyes met every time. One of them looked away first. "Your pacing here," Jungkook said finally, pointing at one panel, "is good, but we need a stronger emotional anchor." She didn't respond. "Y/N," he said, a warning edge in his tone. "What?" she muttered. "You're sulking." "I'm working." "You're stabbing the paper with your pen." She glanced down. Okay, he had a point. "Why are you like this?" she burst out. "One second, you're holding on to me like your life depends on it. The next second, it's don't touch me." Do you have any idea how confusing that is? He turned fully, leaning back against the board, arms crossing over his chest. "You shouldn't touch me," he said quietly. "Why not?" She shot back. His jaw worked. "Because I don't know how not to react," Jungkook said, her breath caught. "What does that even mean?" "It means," he said, voice tight, "I can act like your cold boss. I can argue with you in meetings. I can pretend you're just another name on a paycheck." He pushed off the board, coming closer. "One step, 2, 3. But when you're close," he murmured, "when you look at me like that, when you grab my shirt like you just did." He stopped in front of her chair, looked down. His eyes were darker than the storm outside. "I forget the rules," he said. The room felt too small. "Then maybe your rules suck." Y/N whispered. Something dangerous flashed across his face. "Don't," he said. "Don't push me right now." Pain prickled behind her eyes. "I'm not pushing you, Jungkook," she said. "You're the one who keeps pulling me in and shoving me away like it's some kind of game." "It's not a game." "Then what is it?" He hesitated. "You make me." He broke off, frustrated. "Before you came, this place was simple. Work, results, sleep, repeat. Now I waste time wondering if you've eaten, if you're overworking, if you're laughing with someone else." Her heart stuttered. "That sounds like a you problem," she said, but her voice lost its bite. "It is," he agreed. "That's why I tell you not to touch me." She laughed once, incredulous. "You tell me not to touch you, but you're the one who keeps reaching first." He opened his mouth. The door banged open. They both spun security guard. "Sorry to interrupt," he said. "Power's not coming back fully tonight. Building's locking down. We're asking remaining employees to stay on this floor. Doors automatically lock in an hour. So we're stuck." Y/N translated. "Until morning," the guard confirmed. "We've got blankets and emergency kits in the lobby cupboards. Help yourself. And try to get some sleep. It'll be a long night." He left, the door shut locked in with Jungkook call night perfecta /n POV shift, forced proximity, in its purest form Jungkook POV. Of all the ways he'd imagined being trapped with Y/N, this wasn't it. The storm raged. The building settled into a strange, echoing quiet. He watched her from across the room as she gathered pens and papers, stacking them too carefully. Avoiding his eyes, he'd seen fear flicker on her face when the guard mentioned all night. He'd also seen the way she forced it down. He knew that look. He wore it in board meetings sometimes. We should move to the lounge area, he said. There's a sofa. It'll be more comfortable than these chairs. I'm fine here, she replied. You're not, she bristled. Stop telling me what I am and am not. He exhaled slowly. Please, he said. The word surprised them both. Her eyes flicked up. Something softened in them. Fine, she murmured. Lead the way, Your Highness. He gathered the storyboards, stacking them neatly, then walked with her down the dim hallway to the smaller lounge, a room with a sofa, a low table, and floor-to-ceiling windows, currently being assaulted by rain. He went to the cupboard, pulling out 2 thin blankets and a first aid box. Water, snacks, he said, setting things down. We'll survive. She hovered near the window, arms wrapped around herself. Another crack of thunder flashed. She flinched. He saw it. Y/N, he said quietly. Come sit. Fine. Lightning split the sky, followed by a booming roar. Her shoulders jerked. He crossed the room. Without thinking, his hand landed on her wrist, gently tugging her away from the glass. Don't stand so close, he said. If anything happens. She yanked her hand back. There it is again. Don't. Are you capable of saying anything else? He stared at her. I'm trying to keep you safe. He said, I've been keeping myself safe my whole life. She shot back. You don't get to show up halfway through and start issuing orders. The anger in her eyes wasn't just about tonight. He recognized that, painfully. I know, he said, but I'm here now. That doesn't mean you get to care on your terms only, she whispered. You can't keep pushing me away every time it gets too real for you. His chest tightened. You think it's easy for me? He asked, voice cracking. Do you have any idea what you do to me just by walking into a room? The truth slipped out before he could stop it. Her lips parted. Jungkook scrubbed a hand over his face. This is a mistake, he muttered. I shouldn't be saying this. Then don't, she said, voice trembling. Or say all of it. But stop living in the middle, Jungkook. You're not the only one caught there. Her words lodged under his ribs like hooks. He looked at her, really looked at the crease between her brows, the way her fingers dug into her own arms, like she was holding herself together. The way she looked like she might bolt or break. He took a step forward. This isn't just a project to me anymore, he said quietly. Another step. Not just an employee I hired. Another. Not just the woman who beat my pitch and stole my sleep for months. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough to see the flecks in her eyes, close enough to feel the warmth of her breath. The reason I feel anything when I walk into this building, Jungkook whispered. And I don't know what to do with that. Her breath hitched. Thunder rolled there, pending answer. Hanging between them, a /N. The storm outside pushes her past breaking point, and his instinct is to pull her back. Authors, POV, time blurred. They settled on opposite ends of the sofa, a careful arm's length apart. The emergency lights hummed. The storm roared. The city, half obscured by rain, looked distant. And Unreal-Y/N pretended to scroll through her phone. Jungkook pretended to read through the campaign notes. Neither of them was really doing anything. Another especially loud clap of thunder cracked overhead. Y/N flinched so hard her phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Enough, she muttered, pushing off the sofa. I can't do this. Do what? Jungkook asked, sitting up straighter. This, she snapped, gesturing wildly. Sit here and pretend I'm okay, while everything inside me feels like it's shaking apart. I hate storms. I hate being trapped, and I hate that you're the one here with me, because I don't know how I'm supposed to feel around you anymore. He stood slowly. Y/N? No, she said, backing toward the door. I need air. You can't go out there, he said, nodding toward the hallway. All the outer doors are sealed, and the emergency stairs are. I just need to move, she insisted. To not be in this room with you and your almost confessions and your don't touch me's and your stupid, confusing. Her voice broke. She turned. Hand on the handle. Jungkook crossed the room in 3 strides. His hand slammed flat against the door above her shoulder, stopping it from opening. She froze, breath-catching. He stood behind her, chest nearly pressed to her back. His other hand braced on the opposite side of the door, caging her in without fully touching. Don't run from me, he said. His voice was low, rough, threaded with something desperate. She stared at the door. Move, she whispered. No, Jungkook, you're scared, he said. Of the storm, of me, of what this is. And I get it. But you don't get to walk into my life, turn everything upside down, and then vanish down a stairwell because you're uncomfortable. She let out a wet, humorless laugh. You think I'm the one doing this to you? She asked. You're the one who's been tossing me around like a yo-yo. You pull, you push. You act like you hate me in front of everyone, and then stare at me like what? He murmured, leaning closer. His breath was warm against the shell of her ear. Like you're the only thing I can see, he whispered. Her throat closed. Tears, hot and humiliating, burned her eyes. This isn't fair, she choked out. You can't say things like that, and then tell me not to touch you. You can't be ice one moment, and this the next. He lowered his forehead to the back of her head, eyes closing. I know, he said. I'm trying to unlearn a lifetime of pushing people away. Why? She whispered. Because you're the first person who makes me want to stop. The admission hung between them, raw bleeding. She turned slowly, back pressing against the door now, forcing him to take half a step back. They were so close, their noses almost brushed. Her eyes were shiny, her cheeks flushed. You want me to stay? She asked. Really stay? Not just as your coworker, not just as your sparring partner, not just as the woman who writes nice lines for your campaigns. Yes, he said, without hesitation. Then stop acting like I'm a problem to manage, she whispered, and start acting like I'm something you want. His jaw flexed. Something. He echoed. She swallowed. Someone. His gaze flicked down to her lips, his hand shaking. Just barely lifted, he brushed his knuckles along her cheek. A feather-light touch that felt like it carved fire into her skin. I haven't slept properly in months, he said. Every time I close my eyes, all I see is you in that interview room, challenging me without even realizing it. Every meeting, I know exactly where you're sitting. I can hear your laugh across the floor through a closed door. Her lips trembled. The night you beat my pitch, I should have hated you, Jungkook whispered. Instead, all I could think was, of course she did. Because you were brilliant. You are brilliant. It scared me how badly I wanted you on my team. Thunder boomed. Closer than before, she flinched again. He didn't hesitate this time. His hand slid from her cheek to the back of her head, pulling her forward in one firm, unrestrained motion straight into his chest. Her cheek pressed over his heart dot. It was racing, just like hers. His arms wrapped fully around her now, one across her shoulders, the other banded firmly around her waist, holding her like the storm couldn't touch her here. Touch me, he murmured. She stiffened. And don't ever believe me when I say that again, he finished, voice cracking, because this is the only thing that feels right tonight. Her fingers fisted in his shirt. Her eyes slid closed. She let herself really lean, for the first time. And Jungkook held on, like she was something he'd been trying not to reach for, and had finally given up resisting a /N. When the storm begins to fade, their defenses finally break with a Tother's pav. Minutes stretched, soft and strange. They stayed like that, wrapped around each other, the door at her back, his heartbeat under her ear. Outside, the storm slowly downgraded from fury to steady rain. Inside, something settled. Calmed and then started beating harder again. As awareness crept in Y/N became acutely conscious of everything at once. The warmth of his body, the way his hand splayed at the small of her back, the subtle rise and fall of his chest beneath her palm. She pulled back an inch, just enough to look up. His arms didn't drop. Comfortable, she whispered, trying for teasing, but landing somewhere closer to breathless. Not even a little, he said honestly, her brows knit. Then why are you? Because letting go, he murmured, tightening his hold slightly. Feels worse. Her heart tripped. You really are bad at this, she said softly. I know. You say the wrong thing first, then sneak the right thing in after. His mouth tilted. I'm working on it. She studied his face. No boardroom mask. No cool indifference. Just a man who looked scared and hopeful, and badly in love with something he wasn't sure he deserved. Say what you mean then, she whispered. Just once, without hiding behind jokes or orders. Or don't touch me. He swallowed. His hands shifted, one cupping her jaw now, thumb stroking her cheekbone. What he said next came out like it had been waiting a long time to be spoken. I'm falling for you, Jungkook said, hard, fast. Against every rule I set for myself. Her breath hitched, his eyes searched hers, like he was bracing for impact. Every time I tell you not to touch me, he continued, it's because I know if I really let myself feel all of this at once, I won't know how to go back to being just your boss, or just your teammate, or just anything less than the man who wants to wake up knowing you're in his life. Heat prickled behind her eyes. Do you hear yourself? She whispered. Do you hear how you sound like every K-drama male lead I swore I wouldn't fall for? Too late, he murmured. You're already in the third act. She snorted wetly. You're ridiculous. He smiled, small, but real. The tension between them shifted again. This time, it wasn't just sharp. It was soft. Deep charged his gaze, dropped to her lips, slowly, giving her more than enough time to stop him. He leaned in, her heart raced, her fingers tightened in his shirt. When his nose brushed hers, he paused. Tell me to stop. Jungkook whispered. She didn't. Tell me not to touch you. She shook her head. Then, I'm done pretending. He breathed, his lips found hers. It wasn't gentle at first. It was pent-up frustration, miscommunication, late nights, stolen glances, harsh words, all burning out at once. He kissed her like he was trying to apologize and ask for everything. In the same breath, her hand flew up to his neck, pulling him closer, his arm locked around her waist, pressing her fully against him. Lightning flashed behind her closed eyes. Thunder rumbled like background music. He softened the kiss gradually, mouth moving slower, deeper, leaving her dizzy. When they finally broke apart, foreheads pressed together, air shaky between them. Neither spoke for a moment. He let out a soft, disbelieving laugh. I've wanted to do that since you rolled your eyes at me in your second week, he admitted. She laughed too, breathless. Didn't know that was your type, she murmured, annoyed and underpaid. His thumb traced her lower lip, eyes soft and intense at once. You, Jungkook said, have always been my type. She swallowed, throat thick. You're very good at this when you stop talking like a robot, she whispered. His smile widened, warmth reaching his eyes. Fully this time stay, he said. After this project, after this storm, not just in the company, with me. Her chest constricted. Jungkook, I won't ask you to give up anything for me, he said quickly. I don't want to own your life. I just want to be part of it. If you'll let me. Her vision blurred. You really did catch feelings, she said, half teasing, half awed. His gaze held hers, steady. I didn't catch them, he said softly. I dove. There it was, the point of no return. She took a slow breath. I'm scared, she admitted. I know, he said. So am I. But I'm more scared, she continued, of going back to pretending I don't wait for your emails, or your coffee, or your stupid little half smiles during presentations. His fingers tightened fractionally. So, she whispered, if I say yes, will you stop telling me not to touch you? A slow smirk curled his lips. Oh no, he murmured. If you say yes, I'm going to ask you to touch me more. Her cheeks flamed. He chuckled softly at her expression. Tomorrow, she said, ignoring the heat in her face. We'll still be coworkers. People will still talk. The board will still watch you. They've been watching me my entire life, he said. They can keep watching. I won't hide the best decision I've made just because it makes them uncomfortable. She blinked. The best decision, she echoed. Hiring you, Jungkook said. His thumb stroked her cheek again. And falling for you. The rest can deal with it. Her heart, traitor that it was, surrendered. Okay, she whispered. Yes. His eyes lit up. Yes to what? Don't make me say it twice, she groaned. He leaned in, lips brushing her ear. I want to hear it from you, he murmured, properly. Her fingers slid to the back of his neck, anchoring herself. Yes, she said, to us. Whatever that looks like in daylight. He exhaled like he'd been underwater for too long, pulled her into his arms again, and held on a/n. Morning comes, the storm clears, and don't touch me finally gets retired. Authors POV by morning. The storm was gone. Sunlight spilled through the windows, turning the wet city into something almost new. The building hummed back to life. Computers restarted. Elevators beeped. Normalcy crept back in on the lounge sofa. Y/N blinked awake under a thin blanket. She realized 3 things. 1, her neck hurt too. Someone had draped the blanket over her in the night. 3, that someone had also fallen asleep, sitting on the floor, head resting on the sofa cushion near her hand. One arm still loosely extended, like he'd been holding on even in his sleep. Jungkook, his hair was mussed. His features, usually sharp with focus, looked softer like this. Younger, human. Her fingers twitched, tempted to brush that stray lock off his forehead. She stopped herself. He must have felt her staring. His eyes fluttered open for a moment. He just looked at her, as if trying to decide if she was real or another afterimage of a dream. Then his lips curved. "Morning," he said, voice rough with sleep. "Morning," she whispered. He pushed himself up, wincing. "The floor is no longer my friend." She laughed. Silence fell again. But this time, it wasn't awkward. It was easy, warm, full. "How much of last night do you remember?" she asked, half teasing, half nervous. He raised a brow. "All of it." "Why? Are you planning to pretend it was storm-induced insanity?" "I might," she said. "Depends on how you behave today." He stood, stretching, shirt pulling just enough to show a strip of skin above his waistband. "If I behave," he said, "we'll never get anything done." Her face heated. She grabbed a cushion and weakly tossed it at him. Inappropriate. He caught it easily, smirking. The elevator dinged in the distance as early employees trickled in. Reality crept closer with each passing second. Y/N sat up fully, smoothing her clothes, tucking hair behind her ear. "So," she said, "ground rules for us?" He asked, for surviving a normal workday. After all of that, he considered. "Rule 1, Jungkook said. No more don't touch me." Her lips quirked. "You sure?" It seemed to be your favorite line. "Retired," he said. "Permanently." "Fine. Rule 2, Rule 2. He stepped closer, standing between her knees now at the edge of the sofa. His fingers caught her chin, tilting her face up gently. "If I look like I'm ignoring you in a meeting, it's only because I'm trying not to make it obvious that I want to drag you out of the room and kiss you." Her breath stuttered. "That's not a rule," she said weakly. "It is for me," he murmured. "Your turn. Rule 3, she managed. "No making decisions for me without asking, professionally or personally." His eyes softened. "Agreed," he said. "I'll still be protective, though." "I know," she said. "Just invite me into the choices. I'm not a child. Or a prop." His jaw flexed, like the memory of that "don't touch me" moment still stung him too. "Never again," he said. "You're none of those things." "What am I then?" she asked quietly. He paused, then said it like it was the simplest thing in the world. "Mine," Jungkook replied. "If you still want to be." Her heart swelled. "Say that like I'm the one catching feelings late," she teased. He leaned down, kissing her quickly but thoroughly, stealing her breath and any half-formed joke. When he pulled back, he rested his forehead against hers. "I caught them first," he admitted. "I just took longer to admit it." Footsteps passed by the lounge. Someone laughed. The normal workday was fully awake now. "Time to be professional," she sighed. He rolled his eyes. Unfortunately, he straightened. Offering his hand, she took it, their fingers laced together. He didn't let go as they walked toward the door. Jungkook, she warned quietly. The floor, I know, he said. Relax. At the threshold, he paused, pressed one last, lingering kiss to her knuckles, then let her hand slip from his, leaving a ghost of warmth behind. They stepped onto the floor like nothing had changed, except everything had later that day. During the final storyboard presentation, he challenged her idea in front of the team, sharp, precise questions that made the work better. She shot back with adjustments, quick and smart as ever to anyone watching. It was their usual back and forth. But she caught the flicker of pride in his eyes when the client approved the concept. And when she returned to her desk afterward, a message popped up on her screen. JK, conference room, 5 minutes. She rolled her eyes and typed back Y/N. You can't drag me into fights already. His reply came instantly. K, who said anything about fighting? I told you. I'm done saying, don't touch me. Remember, her pulse jumped. She glanced at his office. He was standing there, meeting her eyes through the glass. For the briefest moment, no glare, just that new, open warmth. And the unspoken promise that when the door closed behind them, he'd pull her into his arms again first, this time with no apologies and no hesitation. /N. Sometimes, don't touch me really means, I'm scared of how much I'll need you if you do. Until one storm, one night, and one choice turned the push and pull into something real.